Yeah, I think a lot of people think of VR and they think, oh, it's video games. I don't care about video games. But it's so much more than that. Just a simple experience. It may be a completely passive experience where you don't have to push a button or complete an objective. It's just something to experience.
Right.
The world of virtual reality, augmented reality, is a whole new future. It is remarkable in what its potential is.
The opportunity for a child to be able to visit the Mayan ruins or the pyramids in Egypt, virtual reality will open that door and hopefully also open their imagination to realize, oh, there is more to this world.
Being put in any environment that you've either never been in or never can go into, is going to be interesting to people. Even places that are, earthly places that you can go to that you've just never been to. Like the other day, I was at the Tower Bridge in London. I was standing outside the Tower Bridge. I was like, oh, this is really cool. I'm in London. I've never been in London before, so it was interesting. It's all about placing somebody in a place that they've either never been or can't go.
We live in a world inundated with noise and distractions. It may be hard for people to dedicate 100% of their focus onto one specific message. Producers of media content know this and have to contend with it. Right now you're listening to this podcast, but is it gripping enough to gain and retain your undivided attention? Maybe your phone just buzzed in your pocket, or you caught a glimpse of a TV projecting images at you across the room. All of these things divide your attention, and you may be spreading yourself a little bit too thin. I have a younger brother, for instance, and I always remember a time when I walked into the room to find him texting his friends, watching TV, playing a game on the iPad, and doing homework on the laptop all at the same time. He and kids of his generation are growing up with this hyper-exposure to media content as a normal part of life. So the question becomes clear. How can we fully immerse people into one platform and not allow for external distractions? The answer is virtual reality. The technology is no longer a novelty or a trend, and it is on track to become a cultural institution moving into the future as a media platform that can break through the noise and distractions of our busy modern media landscape. I sat down with members of Crosswater Digital Media, a production company from Buffalo, New York that's at the forefront of developing virtual reality as a multifaceted cultural tool, to discuss the history, logistics, and impacts of virtual reality in the practical world. I sat down with one of Crosswater's co-founders, Armin St. to discuss the company's transition into the world of VR and how they've used the technology so far.
Well, it was November of 2015 that I noticed VR was gaining popularity. But I saw something lacking in it. A lot of people were doing filming and 360 filming as well as virtual reality with games, but they were lacking the spatial audio aspect of it. And that's something that Crosswater's engineers thrive on, creating sound design in a spatial environment.
Sounds a bit abstract, I know, but don't worry, we'll get to that. So what kind of content can be made on this platform? Well, it's wide open. Entertainment, including narrative movies and TV shows, journalism and documentary, sporting events, live music, and video games, but it can also be used for many other practical purposes.
Entertainment is where it's going to be exciting to most people, but for Crosswater's clients, we found the most benefit coming from those clients in the industrial area and in our healthcare businesses, where they see value in training applications. So that's where we see a niche that while everybody else is focused on entertainment, we see that it has more long-term validity.
What about in the medical realm?
In medical, we see tremendous application in continuing medical education for both physicians and nurses. We are also involved in some programs for residence programs, teaching them in a virtual environment where you get and for Crosswater's team, they love the fact that we're going to be recreating sound design of an actual emergency room environment, an ICU environment, so that new and existing physicians will get the benefit of getting acclimated to what's going on in those environments and how to be able to deal with the emergency situations in a real environment.
By fully immersing them so that they're already used to it. Along with training medical students, VR could very well be in their arsenal of treatments in the future. Studies have shown VR applications to reduce procedural pain in burn victims and cancer patients, as well as possibly restoring some bodily functions in paraplegics. These uses will continue to be explored and will not be limited to the short list that I just read. The full immersion of the platform seems to have a very powerful impact on its viewers.
Totally. And because it is immersive, I find it even more beneficial than traditional media, because you are totally immersed in it. You have no distractions. And so you're going to absorb more. So I see something happening in the educational world.
Well, there's so many different applications for it. So.
Oh, I could go on. I mean, it's really exciting where things are going. I mean, every day we see something new that could be applied to the virtual reality production. And it's exciting because we've tried some don't work, but the ideas are good. So it sees where people are thinking for the future. So I see this constantly evolving. I don't think it is a fad. I think this is going to be the next way.
If VR is on track to become the next big thing, we should have a basic understanding of how it works. For this insight, I spoke with Lauren Innes, Crosswater's video production director. When I was a kid, my parents always told me not to sit too close to the TV screen because it would make me dumb.
Yeah, and now we're putting it right next to your eyeballs. Yeah.
But I don't think it's making people dumb, and you can make an argument that it's making people much smarter. So basically, the VR rig is 6 basic GoPro cameras positioned on each side of a hollow cube. They all record at once, and Lauren stitches the 6 frames together in post-production to create the illusion of one continuous image that surrounds you from all angles.
Yeah, because there are a lot of tools that, can happen in VR that maybe, you can't experience in real life, or opportunities for interactiveness are definitely there. So, it's a involved experience for your mind. Like, It's not like you're just
idly watching
out.
a screen.
Yeah. There's usually a sense of some kind of brain activity happening.
Yeah, some kind of involvement.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the initial thing that you notice is that you can look all around you in the scene. For a viewer, I would say the impact, it allows the viewer to be much more immersed in the video rather than, 2D video can be immersive, but when you feel like you've been placed into a scene, then, it makes you feel like you're actually there. It really makes that difference.
Yeah, it has a more powerful impact.
Exactly.
Similarly to traditional video, the audio will add a subtle but crucial reinforcement to the realism.
Yeah, people are kind of used to the idea of 360 video now, I think. And in the same way that when you either drag with a mouse or move your head, you're seeing a different perspective. It's the same thing with the audio. You're just hearing a different perspective. The audio perspective will always match up with the visual.
Spatial audio is a new way to mix and perceive recorded music and soundscapes. It enhances the virtual experience dramatically. It is an exciting technology, and the excitement of Crosswater's audio engineers has rubbed off onto me. Because I was speaking with Armin, and he said that in 2015, it was when he first was getting into the VR. He said that everyone was pretty well established with the video, but no one had really played around with the audio, and that was the part that really interested you guys. Fred Brown and Dan Innes helped me to understand what spatial audio is and how it will impact its listeners.
Yeah, for us, we saw the 360 video, and a lot of people were like, this is so cool, but we were like, why doesn't the audio work? That was our initial response.
That was frustrating to us, being audio engineers, obviously.
Because there's so much room for improvement, and there's so much capability to do things that hadn't been done before.
Right, and if you had a stereo mix on a 360 video, well, if something's on your left side, if you turn around 180 degrees, it's still on your left side, even now it looks like it's on your right side. And that's a real frustrating experience, and it very much breaks the immersion.
As an audio engineer, you're rediscovering learning how sounds work as you would when you were an infant. Because it doesn't seem like that's a normal thing that people normally would think about if they're not an audio engineer, is the way that sounds work and how you interpret them and how you perceive them and create a space because of them. What's the difference between spatial audio and a stereo mix?
Well, it's important to realize that with spatial audio, we're talking about headphones only. Because of the way it tricks your ears, it has to isolate your ears. So that's why it only works with headphones. So when you talk about the differences of stereo and spatial in that aspect, you have this idea of head-locked audio versus head-tracked audio. So if you're listening to just a regular stereo mix on headphones, if you turn your head to the right or left, the mix will move with you. It's called head-locked. With spatial audio, it's head-tracked. So if you're in front of me talking, it sounds like you're in front of me. But if I move my head to the right, well, now you sound like you're on my left side. So spatial audio will simulate that effect. It's not a static mix like stereo is. It changes based on head direction.
And that's what gives you the immersion of being in a virtual space when you couple that with, 360 video or virtual reality space.
So now, I'll demonstrate what a spatial audio soundscape can sound like. In order to receive the full impact, you'll need to be wearing headphones in order to trick your brain into believing that you're actually in the space. I want you to imagine that you're in a park. To your left, a dog's barking. To your right, children are playing. An airplane soars above you and a stream runs behind you. In front of you is the sound of cars driving by. So close your eyes and let the sound put you into this environment. First the dog. Then the kids. Now the plane. Next, the running stream. And lastly, a busy roadway in front. If you wore headphones, you could hear how the individual sounds have been allocated to very specific locations. That was just a fixed example. Now imagine that the audio was actually responding to where your head was moving. So for example, the dog was on your left, but if you turned 180 degrees, then the dog would sound like it's on your right. And that's what virtual reality enhanced with spatial audio would feel like. Full immersion, a total recreation of the space virtually. So like in your mind, the way you perceive it, like turning your head and having the sound stay the same and hear it the way that you would if you were actually in that space, gives some permanence to your environment so you know where each sound is coming from and where you are in relation to it, and it helps you form further than just what you're seeing to like really put you into that space.
Exactly.
So with all of these tools at our disposal, how can we be creative and further the quality of content?
I'm one of these believers that when I see something evolving, my mind begins to say, well, what else can we do with it?
That's John Adamo, the other co-founder of Crosswater. I spoke with him about the creative potential of virtual reality and spatial audio in a collaborative environment. So a lot of the creativity is just going to be inherent in the fact that you're using a new platform and new technology to offer new perspectives that people didn't even know that they didn't have before. Put it in a new platform and kind of rediscover that passion and the creativity that goes into that, and use the new tool, the new technology to redefine that and to find a new perspective.
And the new technology also, though, is opening up a whole new world of evolving musical sensations, because now that you're not inhibited to the stereoscopic view, which is not even fully 180, now, you've got this ability to totally be environmentally affected by every aspect. All of these are perfected.
Yeah. So immersive, it sounds like it have such a raw, powerful effect on the listener.
New technologies that offer those also open up for us areas of evolutionary creativity that we never knew existed because we'd never heard them before.
Right.
How could I know what it was really like to hear a sound coming from, 400 feet up to my left and gaining in intensity and speed and suddenly spinning around me and taking off into the other direction? All of a sudden, we've added an element that goes far beyond what is normal acoustic appreciation.
Right. So you as a musician and a producer, what do you see as the advantages and the disadvantages of mixing and making music in spatial audio, and unlocking this whole new realm, this new understanding of the sound around you? How can you use that to your advantage? What's the potential?
That's what we're learning right now, and that's what this whole process is. See, for me, this, for the last year and a half, once we made the decision that we were going to enter the world of virtual reality, the most critically important thing to me was that we had to really know and understand what it was we were doing. Because only when we had those basic techniques and principles down could we even begin to explore the possibilities. But already I'm bringing in other arrangers, other composers, and we're talking about where this world can go, because I need to be able to literally infect the minds of other gifted people. But we need to be able to share and collaborate. I mean, I use this term constantly now because it's more than a creative collective. We're now entering the era of collaborative creativity. It takes the active creative involvement in a multi-sphere. And I'm excited and looking forward to the ability to take things that normally we weren't able to do before, to be able to experience an artist in ways that we never have. Those things are all so exciting to me because, it brings the engineer as a co-player and as a co-performer with the artist.
Mm-hmm. And in that, the engineer becomes the creator.
As well.
And the creator becomes the engineer.
As you see, when I said collaborative creativity.
Right.
And everybody brings their gifts to bear.
Having this free-flowing marketplace of ideas, knowledge, and creativity in the VR production community will bring about steady and exponential innovations that are sure to raise the quality of content and bring forward new techniques.
And all of a sudden, you're building all of these potential realities that can be explored in virtual reality.
Right.
Just by approaching it slightly differently, you open up new pathways. It's the way the human brain works, isn't it?
Right. Well, that seems like kind of what virtual reality is in a nutshell, is a recreation of the human brain. And for spatial audio, it's almost like you're rediscovering this innocence of being young and learning the world around you and figuring out how you're perceiving sounds around you. And then as a creative person, how to use that to your advantage to create a powerful message and something that's interesting and fun to listen to.
Absolutely.
And beyond that, that can help people. It can expand people's understanding of the world around them and of the people around them. And it seems like the potential is, it's unfathomable.
We have just touched the surface. 2 years from now, when we talk again, we're going to be chuckling as to how primitive we were 2 years before.
You think?
Because that's how fast it now moves.
So by 2020, you think it's going to be...
You're not even going to recognize it by then. By next year, you're going to see the next iteration probably of the real high-end headsets, and they're probably going to be untethered, and they're probably going to have 4K in each eye. It's going to go quick.
It might be a little bit abstract for people to grasp at first, but once everyone actually tries it and experiences it for themselves, I think that they're going to understand the difference and understand not the importance, but how revolutionary this new technology can
And
be.
exciting.
And
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I recommend everybody get a Gear VR or a Google Cardboard and just go experience it.
Right. The current climate in the VR community is one of excitement. We can't wait to see where we'll go from here. Thanks to the Crosswater team for their expertise. I'm Josh, and this has been the first installment of the VR Talk Show. Thanks for listening.